Wonderful. All right, Heather, we'll talk about timing. We get it's just this is like live TV. It's just like I said, it's just like those
Right?
old PBS Julia, and you see all the magic, and we're going to close that curtain. And I think that we should just see as people come in, see you guys start warming up your fingers. If you don't see that chat box, chat in hello to us. If you're back for the first time, it's nice to see you back. Of course, Chef Alyssa, it is so great to have you here.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you. And yes, welcome to the HALT participants. Welcome to the Healthy Balance participants. Welcome to all these people who are making these amazing changes to their lifestyle. And Heather, welcome
Yeah.
back. So I'm
Thank
handing it
you.
over to you. I'm going to hand it to you.
Very good. Well, again, just want to give everybody a warm welcome. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit already, but we do have a big class. So we do ask that you stay muted just to minimize any background noises as much as possible, and we can really focus our attention on our amazing Chef
Mais
Alyssa. And
saudáveis, é tudo.
oh,
Cira, peraí que
speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and
você
mute
vai falar com a Nick
Alessandra.
aqui.
There we go. Okay. There. So we'll just kind of continue. You can see we do have the ability to mute from here. We don't have the ability to unmute. So you just need to make sure that you can find that little microphone button to be able to adjust that as needed. But if you do have questions as we go along, you can feel free to put those in the chat box. Allison and I will be monitoring that the whole time. You can also raise your hand. There's a little hand icon you can use if you have a question, and we can also call on you that way. So with that, just take a brief minute to introduce ourselves. So of course we have our amazing Chef Alyssa, who's here with us today, the star. She's a personal chef with over 25 years of experience. She's there on Oahu, and she loves to combine good flavor with good nutrition, and we're always excited to have her here with us and see what she's been cooking up. And then of course we
Thank
have
you.
Allison, one of our wellness coaches who resides on the Big Island, and then I will come off camera here too and say, hello, my name is Heather Charles, and I'm the Health Education Coordinator on the island of Maui. So together we welcome you to class. Now, you might be asking yourself, really, what's so special about this whole foods plant-based diet, right, that I need to attend this class tonight? And it's special because it's the only diet shown to reverse coronary artery disease, which one of the leading causes of heart disease and responsible for 1 in every 4 deaths over the age of 35. So pretty powerful stuff. And I know while changing your eating style may seem a little bit daunting, this style of eating can really be best summed up by these words that you see here on the screen. And these words were written by Michael Pollan, an American author and journalist who's written several books about food and health. And he coined that simple phrase, eat food, not too much, and mostly plants.
Heather,
Yeah, I
we lost it.
see
Give it
something
a minute. Yeah.
shifted.
And then I'll say while you do it, what I'm going to
Huh,
say, just as we're doing it, if you guys, I know
yeah.
it's really tempting. Sometimes there's this little button that says take control. And if you do, sometimes we lose our control. So Heather, I'm going to have, there you go. There, it's back. It's back.
Okay, let me
Perfect.
resume back
There we go.
here, and good point. Okay, there we go. So now we still have our little statements here from Michael Pollan again. Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. And that can take, again, this otherwise daunting task of changing our eating style and just simplifying it. And that's really what this class is all about. It's bringing together this plant-based nutrition and culinary skills so that each of you can really be empowered to take care of your health. I think most of us come into this class knowing that vegetables are good for us, and yet, we may have trouble eating them. We might not have grown up with that. And usually the barrier has been that we don't really see vegetables as being kind of delicious. They're portrayed as kind of a chore. It's something we have to eat. And we really hope to shift this mindset and open you up to a new way of experiencing food. I also want to acknowledge there might be a range of people attending tonight, and some of you, might just be beginning and just wondering, hey, how do I get some more vegetables or some more fiber in my diet? And some of you might be wanting to be really fully plant-based and strict and committed to it. So there's this kind of wide spectrum. And this class is about supporting folks, with resources to start to move in the direction that they choose to do. So just know that, when you attend these classes, some of the recipes may have oil or nuts, or you might see an egg, and we're going to give our chef the opportunity to share some substitutions, if applicable, for those things. And of course, if you are looking for a substitution, feel free to chat those in, and we'll try to address that as we go along. Mostly, we're just happy you're all here. Just enjoy watching and learning. Before we get into the recipes, we do want to share a short video clip from a series that Stanford Health put together in 2016 called Food and Health. It's a series of 17 videos that range from about 3 to 5 minutes in length, and they really give practical skills and information on why and how we can eat healthier. So we're going to take some time and play one of those videos today, and really encourage you to check out the rest of that series on your own. The series can be viewed on YouTube, and I'm going to put the link in the chat in just a minute here. And with that, or I don't know if you have the link, Allison, here, I'll
I
put
don't
it
have
in.
it right there, but you put it in, and then I
Okay.
will remind you, turn on the microphone, and I'll be our touchstone to see if we can hear it, and
Okay,
let's
let me
give
put
it a
that
good
link
watch.
there. And let me pull up the video, or get the video here.
Perfect. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. And here. All right, can you see that?
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to push play, and then we'll check back after.
Yep. And I can hear
All
it. Let's go.
nutrients are not created equal, especially when it comes to their effect on our health. So shifting our focus from nutrients to foods can help us develop better eating habits that will support our long-term health.
Getting our head around the idea that we should be focused on the category of foods, not nutrients, is, I think, very important. And I think doctors should be talking to patients about foods, even if, as scientists and researchers, they see through foods to nutrients. It may be a helpful way to study foods. It's not a helpful way to communicate about them.
Let's look at an example of how focusing on nutrients rather than food can leave us confused and potentially consuming a diet that's dangerous to our health. In recent years, a lot of attention has been focused on the fact that many of us are eating too many carbohydrates. There are lots of popular diet trends that encourage us to drastically reduce the carbohydrates in our diet, even to the point of limiting our intake of fresh fruit. At the same time, some of these low-carb diets seem to suggest that protein and fats can be eaten freely, but a diet that's very high in animal protein and contains no whole grains or not enough fruits and vegetables could leave us with serious problems in the long run. In fact, the category carbohydrates includes a wide spectrum of foods, some of which are really important for our health, and some of which can compromise it. Whole grains like brown rice and rolled oats are carbohydrates that provide our bodies with a usable source of energy, and bound together in that very same food is a significant amount of fiber, which slows the release of glucose from that food into the bloodstream. The glycemic index of a food is a measure of the speed at which glucose is released into the bloodstream after it's digested. A whole grain like brown rice or quinoa will result in a slower release of glucose and a more muted insulin response. On the other hand, a food that's high in refined carbohydrates like white bread or soda will lead to a more rapid release of glucose into the blood, and in response to this, the body releases a large amount of insulin, the hormone in our bodies that lowers blood sugar. Because spikes of glucose and insulin lead to less stable blood sugar levels, eating foods that are refined, especially highly processed carbohydrates, can result in an earlier return of hunger and a tendency to overeat. The glycemic index of a food is lower when the food contains fiber or when it's eaten in combination with protein foods or foods containing some dietary fat. For people who are struggling to manage their weight or their blood sugar levels, eating foods that have a low glycemic index is especially important, but choosing low glycemic foods is generally a good idea for all of us. So when we talk about dietary carbohydrates, we're actually talking about a very broad family of foods, some that can be harmful to our long-term health and some that can support it. Learning how to choose the right foods within each nutrient category is one of the keys to long-term success.
Perfect, Heather. Thanks for sharing that. Give us a little idea. I don't know if you want to, are you going to put up, do we have, you have the recipe, right? So we're getting a little preview. Look how beautiful that looks on our screen. And I'm going to say to you, Heather, don't forget to unmute.
Thank you. I was talking muted.
I know, we know this.
You mean you guys couldn't hear me that way? Right. Okay, so here we go. So as a reminder, that whole video series can be found on the link that's in the chat. Hopefully you can access that on YouTube. So I encourage you to do that. And we will look at the recipe, just a quick touch point on the healthy plate. So this is a handout that was included in your link for the class today. So I hope you take some time and just look at it, familiarize yourself with this. And this is just a way to kind of portion our eating. And you can see there's really an emphasis on the vegetable piece here, because we want half of our plate dedicated to vegetables, and then a fourth of it would be to protein. And protein doesn't mean just, chicken and beef and fish and things like that. We want to focus also on plant-based proteins, which we're talking about in this class, like beans and lentils or tofu. The ingredients, again, we'll be introducing you to do throughout the class series that we have. But really the main takeaway from this plate is to make it colorful. If you have a lot of color on your plate, you know that you're moving in the right direction. In addition, if you want to learn more about the healthy plate, we do have a separate 90-minute virtual class taught by our dietitians called Get Your Plate in Shape, and we'll share more about that at the end of class today. And with that, let's move into our recipe. We're talking all about oats today. So this is the recipe you should have gotten in your link, breakfast oatmeal cupcakes, which look delicious. I will pass this over to Chef Alyssa if you want to just kind of review some of those ingredients or anything you want to share before we highlight your cooking.
Okay. I don't see the recipes. Is that where
Okay, it is on the screen, but I can read it if you want to. Said you see the breakfast oatmeal cupcakes?
Nope, it says, welcome, we will begin shortly. But it shows
there you
it
go.
on my phone.
That's where we're going. Well, how about we read it, and then if you want, so you can hear it, and then you can tell us the directions. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, and I do see it on my phone, but not on the tablet, so I can't read that upside down. But
no problem. I'll read it to you if you want.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the ingredients. You can talk about it after I read them off, okay? So in the breakfast oatmeal cupcakes, 2.5 cups of rolled oats, 1 teaspoon cinnamon, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of flax meal, 1 1/4 cup of overripe smashed bananas, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, 1 1/3 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of light oil, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 to 4 tablespoons of raisins or other dried fruits and nuts. Those are the ingredients. If there's anything you want to say about that before the directions, but you're going to show us everything. So,
yes, I am. This is a nice, simple recipe where you actually just combine all the dry ingredients, and then you just combine all the wet ingredients, and then you combine them together, which is just wonderful, because I think, the easier recipes are, the more apt we might be able to do them, right? They're just real simple, and they're grab and go. So that's why I chose this recipe today.
Great. Okay,
fantastic.
Well then I will take this down and highlight her. And I'm really liking these baking cups you have too. They look like they're reusable.
Aren't they fun?
Yeah.
I really love baking cups, the silicone ones. I've had these round ones for years. And then recently I found these little square ones, which I thought would be fun for even like little cake, if you had it just easier portion wise. So yeah, what I love about them is that everything pops right out of them. So you don't
Are they
have
easy to clean? Does stuff get stuck in those little things? That's what I always think about.
No, they can, but you can kind of soak them, use a little scrubby and get them out. But yeah, And you can put them in the dishwasher if you have a dishwasher.
Oh, perfect.
So,
All right.
yeah,
There's a good tip
same
right
way.
there. Good for the environment too. Less
Now,
waste.
I'm going to let you guys know you're going to see me kind of flipping back and forth to getting it bigger and small, just so if she's showing something, you can see it. So if anyone
Okay.
gets dizzy, just chat it into me, but it looks beautiful. So I'm going to leave it up high so
Okay.
everyone can see your beautiful setup there.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just going to bring this a little closer. I know it's, yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the oats, and I use the rolled oats in this recipe. So they are not the quick oats, if you know the difference. They're not the steel cut oats. They're just kind of a nice, there's actually, if you go to a health market, there's different kinds of actually rolled oats, regular, and then there's thick cut. So these are just the regular.
So like the old fashioned, I think they say
Yes,
old fashioned
thank
rolled
you.
oats. Is
Yeah,
that the name
yeah,
of them?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
somebody was asking too where you got the silicone cups from.
Just online, Amazon. Yeah, I was just, yeah, right.
Oh, Caitlin,
I've been
Catherine already
wanting to go
answered.
to Daiso, but I don't know if you folks have Daiso on the outer islands. But the parking lot is always just so full. I have not gotten to Daiso, but I used to cook for somebody who would go to Japan and go to Daiso and get a whole bunch of these things. So I was always so excited, to go once it opened up here, and no luck yet.
And
So I ordered them online.
And
Yeah.
also, before you kind of go forward a little bit, we did have a question about the oil. And I think, as we had the recipe, please define light oil. Do you mean light in color or light in weight? Example of a light oil before you
Thank
move
you.
forward.
Right. Thank you very much. So today I am using avocado oil. So when I say light oil, or when I type in light oil, what I mean is an oil that is neutral in flavor and can take high heat, or can take baking 350. It's not like an omega-3 like a flax oil where they don't suggest that you bake with it. This is, so it could be falling in that category, could be canola oil, it could be high oleic sunflower or safflower oil, avocado oil, and am I missing a refined coconut oil? Those could all fall in that category. Walnut oil, I use refined walnut oil too for baking. Hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. All right. And just staying in that topic of oil, if you don't want to use oil in this recipe, you could leave it out completely because you have the bananas as a binder, but you could also add in a little applesauce if you want instead of the oil. But I think there's enough binding ability with the bananas and the flax that you could just completely omit the oil if you don't want to bake with oil.
And usually if you're going to substitute with the applesauce, I think it's the unsweetened, right? Unsweetened
Yes.
applesauce.
Yeah.
And what I do
Yeah.
too, because sometimes you don't want to open up a big can of that, is I buy those cups, like the
Yeah.
individual cups, and I keep them because that's a half a cup. And so it
Right.
makes it easy for measurement, and I don't waste. Just a tip. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And there's also oftentimes I find just that oftentimes the plain applesauce will sell out, and then there might be a cinnamon one. So if I know this recipe, I'm gonna be using cinnamon in the recipe. It's fine to get a cinnamon infused flavored applesauce. That's another way to go. Save on spices. Okay. Any more questions? All right. So we'll go ahead. Did I? So much for me. I've got the oats in here. I don't think I added any salt. Let me know if you saw me do salt, because I don't see salt. What I tend to do when I'm doing recipes is I won't mix it in. I'll put them on top. So, if I get called away or something, I can see where I'm at with my progression of the dry ingredients. So here's my cinnamon. So I got my cinnamon, and I've got flax. And what I buy is I like the golden flax. What I did was I buy whole flax seeds and I grind them in a coffee grinder that I have just set aside for herbs and spices and things like flax. And then I have a regular coffee mill for grinder for coffee. because then it's just easier not to have to keep cleaning it back and forth, at least for me. So this is golden flax that I've ground to a kind of a meal.
And flax has a lot of nutritional benefits. You guys may have heard of that, right? Full of omega-3s and fiber. You can either buy it pre-ground. I recommend keeping it in the fridge so it doesn't
Right.
get rancid, or like what Chef Alyssa's doing, which is if you have a grinder, just to put it in the grinder yourself and then add it. That's the freshest way. But that's how it makes it bioavailable versus being whole, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I tend to always keep it in the fridge or freezer, either one, just because it's been ground and it's hot in Hawaii. Okay, so continuing on, I'm just going to now stir all my dry ingredients. And I'm going to move on to my ripe banana, which I actually did not have a ripe banana today. So if you don't have a ripe banana, you can continue on with this recipe. I'll show you my trick for non-ripe bananas is then I've got my bananas, I've got my avocado oil, I've got my little bit of vanilla. And what I tend to do is, hold on, so I've got my maple syrup. And I have 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Oh, I just now, so you can, if you don't have maple syrup, you could use another sweetener. You could use, or I use organic cane sugar, light brown sugar, coconut sugar. There's all kinds of sweeteners you can use. You can use agave in here. If you like stevia, you can use a pinch of stevia. Anyways, I use maple syrup today. And then if it's really ripe, you can just mash it very easily with like a potato masher or a fork. If it's not as ripe, I have let's see if I can see it, like a stick blender, little kitchen tool, or you can put it in the blender. I have my water here in a mason jar, so I'm going to put a little water in here just to hopefully gracefully blend this. Spray on myself.
Those are great, those immersion blenders. So
Yeah,
easy.
I use mine all the time. If you don't have one, they're a good investment.
They are. This one just
a lot easier to clean than a
disconnect.
blender. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm just going to put you over here. Okay. So then we're just going to really just combine the two, and I'll add the dried fruits. You can see this is really simple. Okay, let me put this over here.
We like simple, Alyssa. I will tell you, we like simple.
I love simple. Okay, and then I have a combination of raisins, I think currants and dates, chopped dates. I remember what I did. You can add whatever you want. You can add chopped nuts, coconut. I mean, you can really have a lot of fun. Figs. Oh, and here's the rest, excuse me, the rest of the water. I'm like, why is this?
Is everyone okay with it, with a close-up with her doing this? Otherwise, if everyone is all right. Yeah, no, you can leave it the way it is. I close-upped it.
Oh,
yeah,
you did?
you're
You
perfect. I'm
close-upped
doing it on, I can do it from a distance, but it's kind of nice to see it close up. So while you're stirring, I'm going to make it so everyone can see it.
All right.
What do you think,
so
Heather?
there
Okay?
You go. Yeah.
Yep,
And
I think it looks good close.
Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill these cups. So what I just bring them to here. I bring them over. Oh, I amaze myself constantly. That is a good save. I just fill these little guys up. And as you can see, it's a little wet, but it's just going to all absorb. This recipe was adapted from a blog called Chocolate Covered Katie. I don't know if anybody has seen that one. She's been around for a while.
Your breakfast is making me very hungry.
Aw.
Doesn't have to be breakfast.
Yeah, no, it can be a snack. These are great for hiking or
Oh,
just
good idea.
whatever. Yeah.
I just like these silicone baking things. They just make
I
it
know.
look so fun. Like you just want to
Yeah.
eat it now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's funny that I did this once for my mom. I forget what I gave her. We've gone through different things that I've baked for her, but she like threw them out afterwards. I'm like, no, you don't throw.
Oh, no, she
throw
threw out
them
the baking
out.
cups.
She
Oh
did
no,
it. No,
she
don't
didn't
throw out
know.
the baking cups.
Yeah.
So based on the size of your muffin cups, tins, whatever you're using, it will vary your yield. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying. Vary your yield. So this one is making 10. And then baking accordingly. I generally do 350, 20, 25 minutes. But I watch it, see how it looks.
And just a reminder, right? These are the old-fashioned oats, not the quick. Not the quick oats, because that might make it a little
Right, yeah.
mushier. So
rolled
always
oats?
when you're
Yeah.
looking rolled, old-fashioned would be kind of what you want to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'd be
Not
surprised
quick.
when you get there how many types of oats there are. It's like a whole wall of different types of oats. So
I
make
know.
sure you jot that one down.
Yeah. And then, I'm the kind of person that I'd probably put a couple raisins and cranberries on top to make pretty. I just like to have the top, but that's just me because I make food for other people. Do it for ourselves too. So I pop this in a preheated oven, and then I would bake it for 20, 25 minutes. Is that what I said? I just do it visual,
Yes.
usually around. Yeah. Okay. It really depends on your oven too. And then when they are done, they look like this. So
I'm going to have you. I'm just going to have you pull it down a little bit towards the banana.
Pull
just
it down.
Just down the other way. So little, just there you go. At least so we can see them. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So I just peel it off. And you can see, you can take them with you, if you're going to work or wherever, or going to go work out and you want to have these, you can put them in a Ziploc or whatever you want to do. And then just, they can transit like this in a Ziploc, and then you can have it, or you can take them out and just.
Do they freeze well also?
Yes.
You can make a big batch and make a double batch or something and freeze them.
Yeah. And I had a friend who used to make them in the mini muffin cups,
Oh, yeah.
and she would freeze them, but they're great. See, you can just carry them. They're
Can you open one so we can see the consistency and the inside?
Oh yes, sorry.
Just crack it.
And as she's doing that, I do have a question for the people like
Okay.
me who, when you freeze it and you take it out of the freezer, do they unfreeze quickly or should you take them out the night before? I'm one of those people who don't know the answer to that. Like when you say to freeze it, what do you do if you had them?
Usually, I guess it depends upon, how fast you're going to eat it. Usually I give a couple hours before I'm going to eat something. I take it out of the freezer. I have this something similar that I make for breakfast along this lines, and I get up and meditate. So I take it out of the freezer before I sit, and then my breakfast is defrosted by the time I'm done sitting. So I don't know if that helps, or if you're going to go to work, you could take it out of the freezer if you're going to. I don't know if I'm answering this correctly.
You are. And the thing is, honestly, for me, oats never last that they can go in the freezer. But it is a good question because some of us get really scared of that, like scared that we can't make a batch and put it and freeze it because you don't know how to do it. So thank you.
Yeah. And, if something's like still frozen, you can, put it in the microwave for 5-second intervals to try and, defrost it a bit, or whatever the defrost setting is. I've also steamed them, where I'll actually put these in a steamer basket if they're frozen. I've had all kinds of variations, but you can steam it for a couple minutes and it will defrost. So that's another option if you don't microwave.
Great. They look delicious.
Okay. All right.
And simple.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah, simple. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the does anybody have any questions? I was gonna move on.
Yeah.
I just saw one
overnight oats.
coming in. Somebody was saying,
Okay.
does it make a difference in texture if a pan is used as opposed to the silicone molds? If a metal pan is used, do you need to add oil so it doesn't stick to the pan?
I would recommend oil or parchment, maybe some parchment paper on the pan, especially if you have like a square baking pan versus a pie plate, a metal pie plate. Yeah, I would use parchment because that will help lift it out. And I think the baking time would be about the same because they're about an inch high. So it really is based on kind of how thin they are, and thick, thin or thick, your baking time. So sometimes if I'm even making a recipe and I don't have enough to fill, like let's say you have an 8x8 baking pan that's metal, I'll make a recipe and like, let's say I make this, but it would be too thin if I spread it out for the whole 8x8. I'll actually just kind of mush it over to one side. For this one, you could, right? It actually won't just be like a batter where you can't do that. Where I'll just maybe just make sure it's an inch and then scooch it over, to fill into that pan. Because some people just don't have a lot of kitchen bakeware and tools. So yeah, you can just jury rig it into an existing baking dish. Hopefully that's answering the question.
Great. Good tips.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions on this recipe, you guys?
I think we're good.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly put this to the counter and bring out my other things, okay? Give me a sec.
Good. Well, I know my husband just took down some bananas from the tree, so I got a whole bunch of bananas sitting there, and I've been trying to make these. This is another good use for the banana.
Oh, good. Great.
Banana oats breakfast. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to, just going to put this right here. The overnight oats. So if you haven't made overnight oats before, it's fun, it's easy, and they're just wonderful if you work in an office or if you're travel. They're wonderful. Same thing for so many situations when you are just need something on the go, because you can just fill up your little mason jar. There's a mason jar, and take it with you and have a nice hearty meal out in the world, or not, or just at home. So what I generally do is, let me show you one of my favorite kitchen tools too, if I haven't shown you before.
And then let's see. No, go right ahead. Perfect.
Oh, this is a wide mouth jar.
So that would reduce
funnel.
the spilling.
Yeah. So you can put your oats in.
So I'm going to ask you to do a favor before you do it. So can you move the jar to where you just had your oats, and then I can make it. There you go, right there. And I'm going to see how I think that would be good. What do you think, Heather? So everyone can see her doing it. Perfect. Thanks. That's great.
Okay. So I've got oats. This is a little similar. I've got some cinnamon. I've got a little salt. I'm using coconut sugar for this one, so it's a little darker brown. I've got some white chia seeds, which are also known as salba, S-A-L-B-A. There's black chia seeds too. These ones just don't They got the same amount of fiber. As far as I know, the nutrition, they just aren't as dark. This one I have currants and cranberries. I'm putting currants and cranberries in. And I have some, well, actually, I'm going to show you that way. And then I have some almond milk. I did.
How much
actually
almond milk were you using? Just so.
I did actually half of a recipe for the demo. So I usually do half a cup of oats to a cup of milk.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, and then I do 2 tablespoons of chia, and the rest of it you can kind of just play with, whether you want cinnamon or nutmeg or the raisins, the dried fruit, pinch of salt. So I mix that together and I put the lid on. I mean, you can also just shake it, and then you just put it in the fridge overnight. Or I did mine this morning, and it will thicken up. This one I have, oh, hold on. Well, you can see how it's just nice and thick. So all the milk is absorbed, whatever milk you use. And the chia is thickened everything together. It has, what does chia do? It is gelatinous, right? Is that the right word? Gelatinous? It thickens things.
We just had a question while you're doing it. Are the cranberries sweetened or just dried with no added sugar? The cranberries you were talking about.
Oh, I try to get Trader Joe's has an unsweetened. If I can ever get somebody to pick me up some unsweetened cranberries, organic cranberries, or the health markets have like apple juice sweetened cranberries. That's what I tend to go for. But it's really whatever you can come across and what works for you.
Yeah, and Heather, she put it in there. One of the things we like to talk about is like your sweet meter, right? When we start adding a lot of added sugars or things to our food, we kind of lose our own sweet meter, and sometimes just that drying of the fruit really does make it sweeter. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of hidden added sugars out there. We can try to avoid as many as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're going to do the dried fruits, you don't even need to add any sweeteners to this, right? Sometimes I will leave it out. It depends upon who I'm making it for, and all the variations. I have some fresh blueberries I've got on top for serving. You can also do like sliced bananas. Sometimes I don't put any sweetener in my overnight chia oats, and I will do a drizzle of local honey at the very end before serving it, because I just love that flavor of fresh honey. And sometimes I like it even when growing up, I used to live in Maryland. So when it was cold, you'd have hot oatmeal. And my mom used to do like milk and butter and maple syrup, So sometimes I will just do a drizzle of almond milk on top, just to kind of have a little bit of liquid. So you can play with this however you want, but it's just a fun, easy way to have a meal, breakfast waiting for you. It could be even a snack, but just a great high fiber filler that's delicious and easy to make.
Now, did you use the rolled oats again for this one, or was it quick cooking? Or okay, so the same
rolled oats,
same one.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I was going to add, I'm going to add in, we didn't put a recipe. The thing that's fun about overnight oats is that kind of, it's almost, there's lots of great recipes online. It's finding the one you like. I will tell you, and maybe Alyssa, you can really answer this, steel cut oats don't work in overnight oats. Rolled oats are really key in this one. They just don't seem to, I don't know if you've tried steel cut oats at all, but don't get too, I would say this is a great way to play a little bit with what you like. And kind of like Alyssa mentioned, when she used a half cup of oats, she used a whole cup of her milk, her almond milk.
Half a cup of oats to 1 cup of milk.
So it's a
Yes.
2 to
And
1 ratio.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But there's so many good ones. We didn't do a specific recipe for this. It was more we had asked Chef Alyssa to just share something that's good. And then you can choose again your type of plant-based milk if you like it, almond milk. I don't know if you've tried it with the other ones, Chef Alyssa, with oat milk, soy milk, regular milk for some people, if
Yeah.
that's what you
Yeah.
want. There's no wrong way. Be careful what I would add to people. I love coconut milk, right? But some of us are trying to watch our saturated fats, and we know that coconut milk can be a little more with that than, say, the other milks. So just be careful if you're using your coconut milk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if
I No, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about the steel cut oats. Yeah, I agree not using it for this. I have learned for cooking steel cut oats that it helps with the cooking time if you possibly know you're going to be cooking them for whatever reason. If you can soak them overnight, that really shortens the cooking time if you're going to make steel cut oats in the morning or whenever. So just a little tip.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up, my mother used to always cook our oatmeal in milk. I don't know if it was a Southern thing, but instead of water when we were young, and it could be, you're plant-based, but I laugh, I go, well, and because I told her we were doing an oats class. She goes, well, find out if they do that too. So I don't know if that was just something when I was young, but I do like the idea of
Yeah.
just soaking them overnight instead.
Yeah.
I've never heard of cooking it in milk. That's interesting.
Mhm. Yep. Well, and this way we
So,
have a lot more control over, like, when I go to the Target or you go to those grocery stores now, you see all those little quick oat cups that you can grab. We probably pay like $5 for one of those things now, and here we can do it in bulk and make our own and know exactly what's going into it. So,
right.
Chef, we did have one person that just asked again if you could just review the ingredients for the
Sure.
what is it, the overnight oats. I'll
Sure.
try to
Your
type it in.
your
I'll try to
recipe.
type it
Yep.
in quick.
I'm going to leave that to you, Heather.
Yeah. So I did, and while I'm saying this, I just want you to know I'm starting some water to boil. I'm just going to show you how to make really easy oatmeal without milk that I do on a regular basis. Okay, so I did it with a half a cup of oats, rolled oats. I added 2 tablespoons of chia. You could also add, I actually ran out of chia today. So you could also use flax if you want. That's another variation because flax and chia can be used interchangeably to thicken, almost like an egg replacer. I did 2 tablespoons of dried fruit. I did a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And you can play with that one too if you really love cinnamon. I would start with a half a teaspoon just to kind of see how you like that. A pinch of salt. And then I did almond milk, but you could do soy milk. There's so many milks out there, right? Oat milk. Yeah. Oat milk's so popular now. And then I did use a tablespoon of ground flax. Did I put that in? Did I not put that in? I meant to put it in, if I didn't.
No, you did. I saw you
I
do
did.
it.
Okay, thank you. So yes, ground flax, and that's it. And then I just stirred it with a spoon or a fork, or you can just shake it in the closed, sealed mason jar, and then just keep it for overnight, or like I said, I did it this morning, so it was ready by this class. And then I like to top it with some fresh fruit as well when I'm actually going to eat it. But that's just me. Some recipes say to add coconut. You can add shredded coconut. You can add pumpkin seeds. You can add sunflower seeds. It's really chopped nuts. It's kind of what you like to eat. It's like anything,
Yeah,
right? What
that's
you
right.
like to
I've been
eat.
seeing a lot of those ones on the Pinterest and online now because it's the fall. So people doing
Mm-hmm.
not the sweetened pumpkin pie one, but a lot of
Oh,
canned pumpkin
yeah,
and just taking a
yeah,
spoonful of that good, delicious
yeah.
pumpkin and mixing it in and
Mm-hmm.
having it in their overnight oats.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Or cook
So
kabocha.
exactly. I just was going
Mm.
to answer it, Catherine. So you did get, everyone gets the recipe sent to them. This one was just an add-on. So the recipes that we have, the first one is the one that's for class. This was just an extra one, and that's why Heather added it in the chat.
Right. And so I'm not sure what our time is like, if we can do a quick oatmeal. I just wanted to
I
show
think we can.
something. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, this is something that I grew up with. My dad would make, and my grandma did it too. They would make just a batch of oatmeal, a big batch, and then they would eat it, you know, throughout the, day after day till it ran out throughout the week. Um, and I do have a regular client that I make oatmeal for every week. So it's something I do on a weekly basis. Excuse that. You can hear that siren going by. So I have the water boiling. I tend to put in a pinch of salt, just various, a little bit of flavoring, and some cinnamon. And then I add, so I do 1 cup of oats to 3 cups of water. Bring it to a boil. It's boiling, right? And then bring it back up to a boil. Then I turn it down to simmer. And let me see if I can get this down. Because the one thing that I have to share with you is oats can boil over really fast. So watch your oats if you're making oatmeal. And I use rolled oats. Or, if you want to do this, would be good to do soaked steel cut. It'll take a little bit longer, at least twice the amount of time. And kind of the key thing that I do here, this is always so interesting, this induction burner, between one heat setting, one is boiling and one is like doing nothing. I don't stir it too much. I pretty much just cook it for 5 minutes at a low simmer. Just want to make sure that it's not going to boil over. And sometimes if it just seems too hot and I can't manage the heat, I don't know if this is a good tip or not, but sometimes I'll even this won't work with induction, but sometimes on a burner, because I have this flat surface, if it's starting to boil, I'll either take it off or take it on half of the edge of the burner, just to try and control things. We all have different heat sources, right? Whether it's gas or induction or it's coil or it's flat top. So it's working with what you have. But I think the biggest key here is just kind of to watch it and make sure it doesn't boil over. And I generally set the timer for 5 minutes and see if the water has absorbed. It will continue to, it can be pretty soupy, because it will continue to absorb the liquid as it cools down. And then I just will transfer it when it's cool into a sealed container, add a little more cinnamon on the top, and then it's good for breakfast in the future.
Exactly.
So, yeah, nice and
Oatmeal
simple.
goes, it's good cold, it's good warm. It's so funny my kids are grown now, but when we used to go to sporting events in the morning somewhere,
Mhm.
I would take our crock pot and I would put the steel cut oats, you can put them in a crock pot and turn it on really like on that lowest setting. And you can
Mhm.
leave it cooking like 7 or 8 hours. And then in the morning, you have this
Oh, good
amazing,
idea.
it's really good, and you get a big pot and it's done. And so that's just my little tip. I'm not a big cook, but it's amazing how oats go a long way. They really are so hearty. They're such a good food, but I just remember doing that. And as you're cooking this, I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if I should do crock pot oats again.
Yeah. And it's not something you got to do every morning, right? It's just another way of showing you can just reheat this, so just ways to think about how to get some They're just so filling. I just love oats. I mean, I eat
Mhm.
oats every day. I don't know if I could live without oats. It's just, they're great.
Yeah. They are very filling. We kind of do what you do. My husband makes a big pot of it at the beginning of the week, and then we put it in a container in the fridge, and I can
Hmm.
top it with some bananas or some,
Yeah.
walnuts and pumpkin seeds and things like
Hmm.
that, and a little bit of sweetener, and that's a perfect quick breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah. And it holds you.
It does. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm
So
not sure if
that
Dr.
is,
Jen is willing to come on while we're talking about it. One of the things when we were showing with the video, people get so scared about carbohydrates and eating these beautiful, good source that gives you fiber and so much nutrients and energy that you need. I think it's kind of like Heather mentioned in the beginning of class. We want you to eat good whole foods, maybe not so much, but mostly plants, good foods that are fiberful. I don't know if Dr. Jen, if you're still on, if you wanted to add anything to that.
You guys are doing an amazing job, but I agree. Fiber is your friend. Fiber is your friend. And so a calorie is a calorie, right? Because it's just the amount of energy created when your body breaks down an energy bond. But what your gut, what your bacteria, what they do with that calorie is very different. And so there's variations from like whole food plant fiber. Some of us can extract all 4 calories out of that 1 gram, but others we only extract 1 calorie, right? And so with real food, you're gonna have a better chance with these fibers that you're gonna get that excretion in your poop. So if any of you guys are worried about weight, you know, go with the real food, the real plant fiber.
Thank you, Dr. Jen. I think it's just
Mhm.
sometimes nice to hear our doctor tell us. We all have different thoughts, and we all read a lot of things, but, that's why we're doing this class. We really want you to eat some good whole foods.
Yeah, we had a question in the chat. Does the reheated oatmeal have a lower glycemic load than freshly cooked oatmeal? And I don't
Oh,
know the answer to that. So
I
maybe
don't
if
either.
anybody
That's a
else.
great question. I do not know.
So that's a very sophisticated question. And I would recommend, if you're at that level of kind of looking at your food because of health reasons, I would schedule with a dietitian, because really most of us are just trying to get to eating whole food, real food as much as we can, because it'll vary, right? All the wonderful ingredients chef had in her cooking, all of that impact glycemic index. So it's a very tricky question, very sophisticated.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Sandra, I know that you had the same question about kind of the resistant starches. And the joy is at Kaiser Permanente, you can have a telephone one-on-one with our dietitian. You can sign up through kp.org. I highly recommend, if you guys decide to meet with a dietitian and have a phone call or do a class, log your food for a day, right? Pay attention. I forget what I had at breakfast by dinner time, so write it down and then have your questions ready because they are the experts. Love the bubbling sound. Love the
I
sound of that
know.
oatmeal
It's
cooking.
pulsing. It's so
I
Mhm.
interesting.
can hear. I'm feeling comfy and cozy just listening to it.
Yeah. I think it's
Uh,
been 5
and
minutes.
the
I can't
birds.
see. Yeah.
I
So,
think so, or close to. We're
okay.
about
7
7 or so
minutes
minutes to
away.
the end of class. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
And again, keep your
Then,
questions coming in if you feel like chatting them in. But we really appreciate you showing us your oatmeal for the morning. Love this. We got a 3-for-1 today.
Yeah. Oh, it's 3. There's no excuse, right? It's got to be one of these ways, and they're all seemingly pretty simple, right? I mean, doesn't take more than 5-10 minutes. to do some of those. I mean, with the baking time, I guess, but
Yep. And it's a
add more.
very economical food. You don't need a lot.
Very
Remember, it
true.
really swells up when it cooks and it gives you a
Mhm.
lot of, it fills you up.
Let's see. Well, maybe what we could do too, Allison, well, those, I don't know if those are going to cook for a while. I could also just talk through kind of the, the end of the class stuff, and we could come back to this at the end. That's another option.
Perfect. Good idea. Why don't you throw that
Yeah.
on
Yep.
and then I can,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me put the PowerPoint up, and then we'll
Mhm.
end with Chef Alyssa's amazing oats here.
Perfect.
Okay, you
So
see it
there we go.
there? Okay.
Hmm.
All right, so there was the recipe from earlier that's in the link that you should have. We answered the questions. So you guys, we have one more class for this year. We're not going to be doing a class in December with the holidays. So I'll mark your calendars for November 28th, same time, same place. The topic's going to be desserts. So let's move into the holiday season consciously, and we can refine and upgrade some of those dessert recipes. So I'm really looking forward to that. Just a reminder, you do need to reserve your spot. So make sure you call 432-2260 because you're not going to be automatically enrolled in it unless they've set that up for you, but you'll want to make sure and call and reserve your spot. And just in terms of resources to support you in making changes, you can engage with a wellness coach by phone with any of these topics. So if you want some support in making healthy lifestyle changes around any of these areas, you can either log on to kp.org, go under the appointments tab, and you can book an appointment with a wellness coach directly there. Or you can also call 432-2260. So all these appointments take place over the phone. You get 6 sessions, and you usually check in with your coach maybe once a week or every other week. So great way to get things on track. And lastly, I do want to share for our Kaiser members, we have several other classes you may want to explore. Again, whether you're curious about learning more about transitioning to a plant-based diet or what the health benefits are, we have a specific class called Viva Veggies that's taught by our dietitians. And we have a Viva Veggies Part 2. So again, just supporting and giving resources around making the transition to this type of a dietary choice. We also have classes on pre-diabetes, diabetes, heart health, if you're concerned about a particular medical condition that you're trying to work with. And of course, that Get Your Plate in Shape class that I mentioned earlier. So you can take down the same phone number, so 432-2260 to be able to register for the classes. Many of them can also be registered directly, again, on kp.org. And we've got that QR code on the bottom. You can also scan. I don't know if I've never tried using it through the computer screen, but you can see if that will still work through there, and it will access the class flyer. So, and then that's all that I had here, and I see there were maybe a couple of questions coming in through the chat here. So do you want to jump back to that and I'll show the oats?
Sure. I can move the oats over, but I do want to put in, yes, there was a question about, adding chocolate in. We always say in our healthy balance, we don't have a never list. The key is moderation. Kind of get used to. It's the same thing as I said is we don't want to be adding too many extra sugars or sweets if we can get our sweet meter to a place that we like things a certain way, but that doesn't mean you can't, right? And then the same with cinnamon. Cinnamon, there was a question about the health benefits of cinnamon. Cinnamon is a great flavor. There are some potential health benefits. It just depends. I always just say be cautious if you're going and Google docking and looking of all the benefits and the risks. Make sure you can always go to kp.org and look things up there. Find a credible source to find the answer to that. So and again, if you have a lot of questions, talking to our nutritionists, our dietitians, you can go through kp.org and make an appointment if you're a Kaiser member. I don't know if that answers or anything you want to add to that, Heather.
Nope, I think that covered it. Most of our spices are going to have some sort of antioxidant or some sort of medical benefit from very small, and that's why we want to continue to use fresh herbs in our cooking instead of just more salt, right? For flavoring. Yeah.
Oatmeal's looking good there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I just stopped it. It'll just keep absorbing the liquid, and then I'm going to, when it's cool, put it away. So there you go. Nice and simple. I don't stir it too much so it doesn't break down and get kind of goopy.
That's the
Just,
key.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Okay.
The question, Heather, was could you put up that flyer again with the
Yeah.
QR code for a moment? We could split the screen. I wonder if we could do that.
Let me see. I'll put it up here
Okay.
quick, and then hopefully that
And you
will
guys,
work.
we're at the end of our class. I, of course, want to say, Alyssa, it is always so inspiring when you cook. You know, we've got people here who are great at cooking, and then people like me who you got me in and started and going, and I don't get scared anymore because you make it look so easy. So thank you for doing that
Thank
and
you.
helping us. We appreciate everyone who joined in tonight. We really hope you take some of these ideas, get inspired, go share it with your friends, your family, and then just happy cooking. Anything you want to
Thank
add,
you.
Heather or
No,
Alyssa?
I think it's very, very inspirational. We already have people saying they're going to make them tomorrow, right? For the grandkids. Good to get
Yeah.
them inspired. Lots of inspiration happening. I put hopefully you guys can see it, the Lifestyle Medicine November class flyer on here with the QR code. So hopefully that works for you.
I know, and it's our last class of the year is in November. We're going to be doing
November.
desserts because we had got inspired. We're going to do some
Yeah.
fun desserts like with avocado and plant-based. It's going to be
Ooh, I'm
great. So
excited.
I know it'll be
Yeah.
fun. That's our last one for the year. And then we've got it
Yeah.
again. We're lucky. We're going to
For
be doing this next
2023.
year.
Yep.
Yes, we're already doing all our planning for the people who've been coming to this for the whole time. We're so happy. If this was your first night, we hope you come back again next month. And don't forget, I'll put it in the chat. If you do want to sign up, you can just give a call and then sign up through our health education department.
Alice and I are so fast.
I know.
We're
We are right and left
We're like right in line with each other. We didn't miss a beat while I was gone on vacation, did we?
Yes, we were lost without you guys. So thank you guys for coming.
Let me put this here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, good timing today. Okay. Any other questions, you guys? Otherwise, feel free to enjoy your evening and feel inspired to wake up to a healthy, yummy breakfast.
Hi, I have a question. For those that
Yes.
are in the HALT program, do we still have to sign up separately for the November session, or is that part of the HALT program?
You know, I would, if we could check, but what I would do is, if in doubt, I would call that 432-2260 because we did have some changes and we started a new program. I'm not sure. I know that in the beginning, everyone in HALT was automatically put in all of them, but I think it would be safe to say, worst case, give a call and see if you're in there.
Yeah, I think you're
Okay,
enrolled in it, but good to ask Edwin. Yeah.
That's true. When your next class, you can ask Edwin because the next class it's the fourth Monday of the month. So our next one's going to be on the 28th of November.
thank you.
You're welcome. Good. Any other questions?
I think we should spotlight Alyssa. Let's see if I can add you in here. There we go.
Oh, I'll stop.
Oh, no.
Stop with this.
There we go. Look at that. Her
Okay.
food and Alyssa. We should have had it that way the whole time. Thank you.
Oh, there, that works good. Now we find out at the end, right?
There we go.
The best
End of
way
the year,
to do
we'll
it.
figure
That's
it
usually
out.
the way it is.
Oh, there I am. Okay.
There you
I see
are.
it.
Here, we won't leave you alone. I'm going to come on with
Okay.
you. Anyone who wants to
Thank
come
you.
on, that's great. It's nice to have everyone. Have a great night. Enjoy
you.
yourself. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Hope to see you next
Bye.
month.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
going to have some good food tomorrow, Alyssa. You're going to have good
Oh, yeah,
energy.
she's set for the next 2 weeks.
I love it. It's perfect. I do. I just want to grab one of those little cakes and take it
I
like,
know.
so
Sorry.
yummy.
It is dinner
Oh,
time,
I
right?
know.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
dinner time. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
good night.
You
And
too.
So happy that everyone joined us. Appreciate this group. Great comments, great thoughts in there. Hoping people go out and give it a good try. All right. I see John's on there. Started and stopped our program, I hope, since we always forget that. So, all right, Alyssa, you're free. Thank you. Have a
Okay,
great
bye.
night.
Good night.
Okay.